welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a full review on the new limited edition collection from Burberry. They launched a few new lipsticks and also a face and eye palette. This is called the Iconic Eye and Face Palette. It retails for $90. It has the blush right here, and then you have 4 eyeshadows here in the center, and then the highlighter here on the outer corner. The packaging is absolutely stunning on this. Like, packaging, in my opinion, is probably the best thing about this palette. The reason why I wanted to get this is because I fell madly in love with this palette. This is the Runway Eye Palette. Love this palette. I bought this palette to review, but by the time I got it, it was been sold out, and it's been sold out since I received it. So I don't know if they're bringing it back. It's still on the website, but it just says it's sold out. These shades are so gorgeous, and the pigments are amazing. Because I loved this palette so much, I wanted to try the eye and face palette. There are some similarities in this palette, but they're not exact, but I will definitely do some swatches in case you have this palette and you want to see how this palette compares. Now, the palette that I have wanted to get, but just haven't done it yet, is the Essential Glow palette. They have a fair to light medium, and then they have a medium to dark. So I am curious to see how these right here compare to that Glow palette. So I went ahead and ordered the Glow palette. The reason why I wanted to get the Glow palette is because I didn't have the best experience with this blush. So I want to compare this blush next to the blushes in the Glow palette. So as soon as that palette arrives, I will finish up the video, and in my final thoughts, I will compare this palette next to the Glow palette and kind of discuss the differences between the textures and stuff. With this face and eye palette, they also launched 3 new limited edition lipsticks. So I ordered one of the 3 shades. I ordered the Delicate Rose number 14, and I'm wearing it right now, and it is beautiful. These retail for $37, and they are limited edition, but the packaging on this is so gorgeous. Like, I am loving the packaging. And then right here, you can see it has a beautiful embossing right here on the center. Just gorgeous, gorgeous packaging. Quality of the packaging, just how beautiful it is, being that it is Burberry. And the comfort of the lippy. I love the shade. So yeah, I really like the lippy. So that's what we're doing in today's video, you guys. It's all about Burberry. Without further ado, let's jump into the applications, and I will see you guys all in my final thoughts. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this new palette from Burberry. This is how it arrived. Let's open this up. This is how the palette comes. Ooh, the packaging is super pretty. Look how beautiful this is. Let me get it away from the light. Look how beautiful that packaging is. And then this is what it looks like on the inside. The blush looks pretty light. The highlighter looks really beautiful. Ooh, it is pretty. Look at that highlighter. That's a pretty highlighter. But the blush, man, the blush just doesn't feel like it has much pigment. Yeah, the blush is pretty light, but we'll try it. We're going to start with the eyes first. So I'm going to use these 4 shades first, and then we'll move on to the blush and the highlighter. The only matte shade is this one. I'm going to start with that shade and put it in the crease. And I have a little spot right here. I don't know what it is, but hopefully it doesn't mess up the eyeshadow. We'll see. I think I'm going to do a halo eye with this palette. So I'm going to first start with this dark shade right here. And I'm going to use a smaller brush. This is actually from the Morphe and Ariel collaboration collection. This is the A108. It's just a small brush. I'm going to use this to kind of define and place the shadow, and then I'll blend it out. This is a similar look that I saw Andreaa do a couple weeks ago. This palette kind of has that dark color that she used in that tutorial. So now I'm taking a fluffier brush and lightly tapping into this shade right here just to kind of blend it out, kind of blend the edges. It's always nice to have a dark color like that you can place it with a smaller brush and blend it out. Now that I have that done, I'm gonna go in with this red tone, and I'm gonna be using my Smith 253 brush, and I'm gonna go into that shade Dry first. Then I'm just going to take a small brush like this and go into that red and bring it right up into the crease. And I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to go back into that matte shadow, the cool tone, and then kind of buff out all of those edges and then kind of blend those together. Now I'm going to go into the gold shade because I wanted that down first. And now I'm going to go into the gold shade using the Smith 253. And again, using this Dry. I might dampen it, but I think I'm going to go ahead and dampen that just to see the intensity. Oh yeah. Now these shadows are very soft and quite buttery, so this eye look is pretty easy to create with a formula like this. Got a little bit of fallout, but not much. Not enough to need to wipe it, which is always good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on some concealer. So I went ahead and threw on some concealer. Let's move on to the lower lash line. I am basically going to follow the same kind of steps. I'm going to go into this color here, and I'm going to bring that right here on the lower lash line. And then right here on the inner corner. I will link the video that I saw Andreaa kind of doing a similar look to this. Of course, hers is always going to be so much better than mine. She is one talented makeup artist. But I do get a lot of inspiration from her because I just love her eye looks and I love her talent. She's just incredible. I will link the video in the description box if you guys want to check it out. I'm going to go into the red color with a small pencil brush and bring that right here. Then I'm going to go into the gold color. I'm going to go ahead and throw on some eyeliner. I'll probably put on a pair of lashes. This eye look would just be really pretty with a pair of lashes. I'm going to finish this eye, and when I come back, we will jump into the face product. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I went ahead and finished the other eye, threw on some mascara and a pair of lashes. Let's move on to the blush and the highlighter in this palette. I have a lot of clean brushes at the moment. I need to clean my brushes. It's been a wild couple weeks, but I do have a synthetic brush. This is also from the Morphe and Ariel collection. This is the A3.2, and so I have a synthetic brush. And then I have a natural haired brush. This is the Designer Pro from Sonia G. I also have this brush from Refer. We'll see if that helps because it's a little bit more dense than this one. Then I also have this one, which is the classic base brush from Sonia G, just in case I need more density to apply the product. But we're gonna first try this brush, and I'm gonna go into the blush. Now I haven't put any bronzer or contour on or anything like that because I want you guys to see what this color looks like without anything else on the face that can disrupt the actual pigment and how it looks and stuff. So I've got some here. This is what it looks like. It feels a little bit powdery. So I'm not going to tap off. I'm just going to start applying it here. The color's not bad, but It's kind of more of like a light wash of like a nude color. You can see here on the fingertip, right here, it's just a little bit powdery. Not my favorite blush formula, but I was able to build it up. This is built up 3 times. So I was able to build it, but for as expensive as this palette is, I was hoping for a little bit better of a formula. If you're my complexion, you can build up the shade. Here's the thing, the color of this, I'm able to build it to make the, color work on my complexion. However, on the flip side of that, the formula is quite powdery, so you can run risks of getting an uneven application, and that's what I am not liking about the formula. So let's go into the highlighter right here. Now this is a light brush, so this is applying it quite pretty. Now the highlighter has more of like a purple silver undertone, which is a little bit ashy on my warm complexion. Not my favorite. I don't love the highlighter and I don't love the blush. So I am back. Let's go ahead and jump into the lipsticks. So again, they came in this little brown package. Oh, and I thought I bought 2, but it looks like I only bought 1. The packaging is the exact same as the palette. Really, really beautiful packaging. Just gorgeous. And this is the shade that I got. Ooh, it is pretty. Just a gorgeous nude color. Look how beautiful that color is. Oh, that is so pretty. So this is the shade 14 Pearl Delicate Rose, and it is beautiful. And I love that more kind of satin, creamy formula. Ooh, it's so pretty. I like how it has that shine to it. So I'm going to apply it first without a lip liner, but I will probably do a lip liner, but I just want to show you guys what it looks like on the lips without a lip liner. So this is what it looks like without lip liner, and this is so right up my alley. I love peachy based lip colors. They're just my favorite. And they just go really well with my complexion as far as being like medium to tan with a warm undertone. Something about that peachy color and my complexion, it just goes together. And so I love this. Like, this is absolutely beautiful. And if it's limited edition, I might have to buy a backup. I love it that much. I love it enough to probably need a backup. This is beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and put on the lip liner from Victoria Beckham Beauty. This is one of my favorite shades. This is the shade number 4. So I'm gonna line my lips with this shade. That is such a beautiful shade. I thought mine was broken. I couldn't get the lid to work, and I kept putting it on like this, and I was like, why isn't it doing it? But it's magnetized, but it has to match. There's probably a magnet in here and a magnet on a certain part of this. So it just takes a minute to kind of click it into place. But love this shade. Oh my gosh, I love this shade. As I mentioned in the last segment, I wanted to kind of put this review on hold until I could get this palette. So this is the Essentials Glow palette. It's a Sculpt blush and highlight palette. This is the medium to dark palette. So these textures feel much different. Like, this is more of like a gelée formula. This formula is kind of similar to the same formula as what's in the Charlotte Tilbury Nudegasm palette. So I would say this formula is kind of similar to this, where it kind of has that gelée formula. But this palette has just this powder blush and this highlight, which, by the way, when I went off camera and started swatching this palette, I started having issues with it. As you start swatching it and like using it, it goes from this to like this. And then it's just not that pigmented. I'm not sure why, but that was my experience. This is the Sculpt, and this is a cream. So I'm excited to try that. So I'm gonna grab this brush from Vanity Makeup. This is the Sculpt face brush. And I'm gonna go into the cream. I'm just gonna start out with a little bit and then kind of work from there. So that formula is workable, but it can start picking up foundation quite easily. So you can kind of see where it's patchy right there. So I don't know that I love this formula. All right, so I went ahead and blended it out. And this is an okay formula, but I've used better cream formulas. It's not bad. It's not like the worst formula I've ever used, but for the price of the palette, and it being more of a luxury product, I've used better. A few patchy spots right here, which I don't love. So I'm hoping that I can kind of buff it out with like the bronzer and stuff. I don't normally use bronzers this dark. I think if I go in with a lighter hand, I might be able to apply this. I'm just gonna go in really lightly, but what I can tell you is, just based on swatching it, it does have that more gelée formula, so I like the formula of it. I don't know that I want to use a bigger brush. Got it here on the BK Beauty 106 brush, and I'm just gonna kind of tap it over top and just see how much control I have with it. This side looks okay. It's this side right here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wipe this off over here, and I'm gonna reapply my foundation just to give it a second chance. Okay, so I've reapplied foundation. It's definitely a kind of a patchy formula because you can kind of see it kind of patching up right there. It's not my favorite formula. It's a little bit too patchy. I mean, you can see it patched up again. I'm gonna wipe it off one more time. And what I'm gonna do is use my own contour product and then go in with the bronzer because the contour is just not cutting it for me. It's just not working out. So I used this palette the other day and I struggled with it. So I used this cream contour. Yes, it's dark, but it's about the same color as some of the other contour colors that I use. The issue that I have with this cream contour is that it gets muddy super fast. So I'm gonna swatch it here so you guys can see. So it's it's got a nice cream texture to it. So when you apply it, it's nice. But once you start blending it, I'll show you what happens. So you can see underneath the line of the swatch. So it doesn't fully blend out. The more that you pack it on, the patchier it gets. And so it's not my favorite formula as far as cream contour. Today, I am going to apply it with a sponge and see if a sponge helps it to not get so patchy, because drawing it on like this, like I do with all of the other cream contours that I have, doesn't work. It just didn't work for me. So I've got a dampened sponge here, and I'm gonna go in and grab a little bit right here, and I'm just gonna tap it in to my cheek. And then I'm gonna take my sponge that's got my foundation on it and blend it out. Still not my favorite cream contour. It just is kind of muddy looking, and it's not my favorite. Let me show you how this shade compares to a few other cream contours that I have. I have this one from Tom Ford. This is Intensity 2. This is the shade in Illuminate. So this is Intensity 2, and this is a very creamy, like emollient based. So this is the Burberry. Obviously the Burberry is much darker. Here is another cream contour that is fantastic and blends beautifully. This is from Westman Atelier. This is in the shade Truffle. So I'm going to put Truffle right here on my bony hands. So this is Truffle. And then I have Danessa Myricks in medium 2. Danessa Myricks formula is more emollient based, similar to the Tom Ford shade in Illuminate. I would say the Westman Atelier formula is similar to the one in the Burberry. It's got kind of that creamy powder texture. So this is Danessa Myricks. I also have the Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Hollywood Contour Wand in the shade medium to deep. So we have the Tom Ford shade in Illuminate, Intensity 2. This is the Burberry, medium to dark. This is the Westman Atelier Contour Stick in Truffle. This is the Danessa Myricks Contour Balm in medium 2. And then we have Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand in medium deep. I would say the shade is probably the darkest out of the 5. It's the formula that makes the applying a little bit more difficult. So you can see it's the least emollient out of the 5 on the hand. You can see it kind of dries to more of a powder finish. As you start to blend it, it's definitely more of a powdery texture, which is not a bad thing, but as you're blending it, you have to be super careful with it so that it doesn't get patchy. So that's my kind of biggest complaint with this formula overall, is that it's just super, super finicky, and I have to be super careful with the way I apply it. Let's go ahead and apply it on this side with a sponge. This is the side I struggled with the most. See how it's patchy right here? And I don't know if it's because of the angle. You know, when I apply contour on this side, I'm going directly on the skin, but like I have to cross over, and I don't know if it's the way I'm tapping it, but it's a very finicky formula. So for me, it's just not my favorite. I have a lot of great contour products in my collection. And this one is, in my opinion, the hardest to work with. This is probably the best application that I've gotten so far with this cream contour. So if you have this palette and you've struggled with the cream contour like I have, try a sponge, because this is the best it's ever looked. So I'm gonna grab the Rephr number 24 brush, and I'm gonna go into the bronzer right here below it. So I am going to tap this right over top of the contour. And it will just kind of warm up the contour. It's a pretty bronzer, it is. So let me show you the shade. You can see it has such a beautiful shine. It is not a powdery bronzer. It's a very soft gelée formula. It's got a little bit of a highlight to it. So that's the bronzer. It's a very beautiful color. It is. It's a very beautiful color. In fact, yesterday I used the bronzer alone without the contour, and it's a very beautiful color. You can see that it has that really pretty shine to it, where it gives the skin that glistened kind of glow, but it's not overwhelming glow. It's not too much glow where it kind of exaggerates any of the texture or anything on the skin. Really pretty formula. Let's move on to the blushes. All 5 of these are that gelée formula. Best way I can describe it is it's similar to this. This is the Nude Gasm palette from Charlotte Tilbury. These have that gelée type of formula to them. So that's the blush. And I'm gonna swatch it next to this top shade in the Burberry palette. So you can see that they both kind of have that highlight. I'm gonna show you the one on the bottom too. They both kind of have that highlight to them. So it's that same similar formula, the same similar texture as the formula in the Nude Gasm. This is the highlighter from the Charlotte Tilbury palette. And then I'm gonna swatch the top one from the Burberry and the bottom one from the Burberry. This one from Charlotte Tilbury might be these two together, like combined. Let's combine them. So that's the 2 of them combined. So I would say, looking down on it, the 2 shades from Burberry, if you combine those colors together, They're very similar to the shade from the Charlotte Tilbury. Let's go ahead and apply the blush so you guys can see what the blushes look like. So I have a clean blush brush here. I'm gonna apply this blush on this side. You can see the instant pigment. Way more pigmented than the face and eye palette for sure. So I'm gonna wipe the brush off and I'm gonna go into the pink one. I'm gonna run my brush through both of these and apply them here on the skin. So it is very glowy and kind of dewy, right? So this is the final look. Lots to say about both of these palettes. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into the swatches, and I'm gonna swatch the face and eye palette next to other shades and stuff that I find in my collection that are similar. Then we will jump into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so now that we've made it through the swatches and comparisons, let me go ahead and get into my final thoughts. I'm gonna first start with this palette. Even though this palette, I really liked the first eye look that I created with the palette, this is just, I cannot recommend this on any level. It's way too expensive for the lack of pigment. This palette is best for those who have fair to light medium skin. If you have medium, tan, dark, this is just not going to work for you on any level. With all of that said, if you have a fair to light medium skin tone, do I still recommend this palette? No. For one reason and one reason only. This palette did not live up to this palette. So like I mentioned, I fell so madly in love with this palette that is the reason why I wanted to buy this palette. I love this palette. It is so beautiful, and it went out of stock and it's not come back. I know it was limited edition, but like this, the textures in this, oh my gosh, I love this. This has just been such a beautiful palette. I would say that the formulas are different. The formula in the Runway palette is so much better than the formula in this overall. Even this highlighter, I'm just not in love with. It's not that pigmented, it's not that pretty on the skin, and it's just, it's not my favorite. When you pay that much money for a palette, you want to make it worth it, right? So for me, and what I look for and what I like in makeup, this just doesn't cut it. This does not bring it to the level to where I could recommend it. Yes, I have similar shades, as you saw in the swatches. I have similar shades in my collection to these 4 eyeshadow shades. So if you're looking to create a similar look that I created, then I'm sure you could probably find these shades in your palettes. Maybe not in one, but you can probably find them in a few palettes because they're not super uncommon. Gorgeous. I loved the look, and I got a lot of compliments on it. I was wearing it in one of my recent videos, and I had a lot of people asking me, like, what are you wearing on your eyes? Oh my gosh, I really want to know. And I think so don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful eye look, but you can definitely create a similar eye look by just going into your collection and finding shades that are similar to this and kind of going from there and following the tutorial. I cannot recommend this palette on any level for anyone, really. And the only person that I feel like would really like this is those that don't like a lot of pigment. So if you like just a light wash of blush and you like a light highlighter, then you'll really enjoy the blush and the highlighter. If you're like me and you like blush, this won't cut it. Even if you have the right skin tone to wear it, because it's kind of a powdery pigment to where it doesn't really stick and adhere to the skin. So you kind of have to build it, and that's kind of a bummer. So this is definitely a blush that is a light wash of pigment. The eye colors are pretty, but they're nowhere near the pigment and nowhere near the texture as the Burberry Runway Eye Palette. That one was just special. The textures were beautiful. These are not the same. They're usable, but they're not the same formula. Moving on to this palette, which is the Essentials Glow palette. This palette would be good for those who want a really glowy look. If you like your skin to kind of have that glow, like you can see my cheeks are glowing, but you can also see that that blush having the glow to it made my foundation in this area a little bit more transparent than I'm personally comfortable with. You can see some of my hyperpigmentation kind of popping through, which is also kind of it's a bummer when you're using products like this, but glowy products that you put on the face can do that. Even though I struggled with the cream contour, which to me was just, ugh. That's the thing, is like this palette is so expensive that every shade needs to work and perform. And I'm just not loving that cream contour. I will never reach for it. I will always reach for my other cream contours over this one every time. For me, on a personal level, if I'm not using the cream contour, I'm pretty much only have 3 shades, because these shades are so similar that they're not that much different on the skin. Same goes for the highlighter. Wish that the blushes didn't look so similar on the skin, and same for the highlight. Yes, they look different swatched, but they don't look different on the skin, for me anyway. So when I look at this palette, for me, being that I'm not going to use the cream contour, there's only like 3 shades in this palette, which at the end of the day, does that make it worth it for me? No. If I had to repurchase this palette, would I? No. If I had to repurchase this face and eye palette, would I? Absolutely no. I just wouldn't repurchase it. That's just my thoughts. The lipstick, I have already repurchased and bought me a backup because I'm absolutely obsessed with this shade. It's beautiful, and it's a limited edition, and I love it. I think it's such a beautiful shade, and it's kind of me, who I am. I love these kinds of nudes, and I love this packaging. So there you go. Such a beautiful shade. So those are my overall thoughts. Sound out down below in the comment section. Have any of you guys picked up this face palette? Because I know this face palette's been out for a while. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you guys have this palette, whether it's the lighter one or the darker one, I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. And if you felt like you got your money out of it. If by chance you guys have bought this palette, let us know in the comment section down below your thoughts. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.